It looks like senior Palestinian Authority officials have begun talks with associates of U.S. President-elect Joe Biden. On Monday, the deputy head of Fatah, Mahmoud Al-Alul, said that the PA had come to several understandings with Biden's staff about various decisions made by the Trump administration on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And according to reports, preparations are now being made for a phone conversation between Biden and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Well, we have Khaled El-Gindi joining us. He's a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute and the program director on Palestine and Palestinian-Israeli affairs. So to begin, what kind of understandings have Palestinian officials come to with Biden's staff? I mean, what specific issues have been on the table here?
Well, obviously, I'm not privy to those meetings or those conversations, but we can assume based on what the Biden team has already made public in recent weeks and months, is that they are going to look at things like reopening, or at least trying to reopen the PLO embassy in Washington, reopening the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem, reestablishing U.S. assistance to Palestinians, including to the refugee aid organization UNRWA, and other programs in the occupied territories that the United States had been funding, but that were completely cut off by the Trump administration.
Could we see Joe Biden reverse any of the policies enacted by the Trump administration? And if so, what?
Yeah, I think those, specifically restoring aid that the Trump administration had cut, reopening the embassy that the Trump administration had closed, and reopening the U.S. consulate. I think the goal is to return as much as possible to the pre-Trump era in terms of U.S.-Palestinian relations. The one big exception, the one thing that will not be reversed, is the U.S. embassy move to Jerusalem. It's the Biden people have said they're not going to move the embassy back to Tel Aviv, and it will remain in Jerusalem. But we may see some other gesture toward Palestinians in Jerusalem.
What about when it comes to settlement activities? You know, American recognition of the Golan Heights as Israeli, the West Bank territories.
Yeah, I would expect all of the policies, like the reversal of the legal opinion by the State Department that settlements are illegal, which of course is the international consensus, that would be reversed, that old policy that settlements are illegal would be reinstated, and that the recent country of origin declaration regarding any products produced in Area C as being made in Israel, I would expect also to be reversed, since that effectively recognizes Israeli sovereignty in something like 60% of the West Bank.
Well, how do the Palestinians view Biden's election in terms of the future of their relations with the United States? Everything that you said sounds pretty good for the Palestinians.
Well, yeah, but we're talking about, of course, the Palestinians are extremely relieved at the election of Joe Biden, and they're very happy to see Donald Trump leave, in large part because, you know, while it's always been true that the United States has favored Israel, there is, of course, a very longstanding special relationship with Israel. The United States has always leaned toward Israel in the negotiations with the Palestinians, and I think Palestinians understand that. But the difference was that the Trump administration had an unparalleled hostility toward the Palestinians that we've never seen from a U.S. administration in almost every aspect. And so the gestures like the decision by Mahmoud Abbas to resume security cooperation with Israel, all of these things were done as messages to the incoming Biden administration that they're very pleased with the departure of Donald Trump and are looking forward to working with a Biden administration.
Now, my final question for you is, you know, how will this shift in American leadership impact the future and hope for an Israeli-Palestinian peace deal?
Yeah, I think probably not that much will change. I think we will see, the most that we will see is a return to something that looks like the status quo ante before Trump, maybe status quo minus. But I would not expect the Biden administration to put a lot of priority on resolving the Israeli-Palestinian question or trying to resume negotiations. The Biden administration is going to be first and foremost preoccupied with dealing with the COVID pandemic, with the economic fallout, with a number of other international priorities, cleaning up much of the disarray that was left behind in the American bureaucracy by the Trump administration. So they'll have their hands full. So I wouldn't expect to see any major diplomatic moves, but something more that tries to stabilize the situation and at least to do minimal harm.